And there's a lot more unfolding in politics this week, from a stalled veterans health bill to the week's primary elections as well. So joining me now to discuss that and more is national politics reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Julia, great to see you as always. And let's jump right in because we have a lot to cover. Let's talk about the primaries coming up on Tuesday. So first, we know that 3 out of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach former President Trump last year may be in for a tough time. What are we expecting with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing those 3 Republicans up for primaries, but I would say it's also really a test once again of this, race or contest between President Trump's backed candidates, many of those candidates in states like Arizona who deny that he lost the 2020 election and very much tout his unproven theory that he won it. And of course, those Republican establishment backed candidates backed by people like Mike Pence, for example. So we're really watching Arizona and Missouri in particular. There are those Senate primaries very much closely watched by a lot of us, and they are seen very much as, a turning point really in what direction the GOP could go in. In Arizona, you're obviously very much talking, a very crowded Republican primary. That Republican primary was very much a race to get President Trump's endorsement. He's endorsed Blake Masters in that race. And of course, in Missouri, you have the former governor of the state, Eric Greitens, running, and he was considered the front runner, but now he's gotten a lot of backlash from the GOP establishment due to domestic abuse allegations against him and such. So definitely a lot to keep an eye on tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. On Tuesday, yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but let's go to Joe Manchin now. In an exclusive interview on the Chris Cuomo Project, which is of course hosted by NewsNation's Chris Cuomo, Manchin would not say if he'd back President Biden for re-election. Let's listen to that quickly.
When you go home and people say to you, what do I do in this next election? Do I vote for Biden again? Do you believe the president has earned a second term?
I believe that basically the people will make a decision state by state. The people in my state will not support a national Democratic figure right now that I can see.
So what has the response to this been? Has Manchin just continued to be a sort of thorn in the president's side? And why would a Democratic senator not back a sitting president from his own party?
Yeah, well, Joe Manchin is a Democrat, but it's important to take in the context that he is a Democrat from a very, very red state. And we know that the Democratic Party under President Biden, even before President Biden, was moving in a more progressive direction. We hear a lot of those progressive voices in the party, whether it's Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, getting quite a bit more attention. However, Manchin is what I would call a conservative Democrat. So he is not a part of that growing movement within the party. On top of that, you also have a lot of Democrats who have been giving very interesting answers about Biden and his future in 2024. When Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was asked about whether he thought Biden should run, he said he would support Biden if he runs for another term. And normally you have, elected Democratic officials or the president officials from the president's party not using the word if, they say they will support the president. So, those key words are very important here. But I think it shows really how much is up in the air in terms of, who runs in 2024. Is it Joe Biden, who will be over 80 years old at that time and who has had, struggled through this these first 2 years of his presidency with inflation and such, or will it be a younger candidate, a change candidate? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And let's talk quickly about Speaker Pelosi and her visit to Asia, because we do have this itinerary that came down today. Of course, Taiwan notably absent from that. And we're tracking this back and forth about whether she will go. At this point, doesn't she kind of have to go? Doesn't it look weak to China if we don't?
Well, look, she's going to be walking a tightrope regardless if she goes or doesn't go. One thing I will say, her making the decision, this is hers to make alone. Remember, this is not necessarily representative of the Biden administration. She is a leader in the legislative branch of government here in the United States. She is not technically representing the Biden administration, even though she's representing the U.S. government. So, she doesn't have to necessarily do what the Biden administration says to do or what they advise to do. But, it's sort of a damned if she does, damned if she doesn't situation. If she goes, that could create even more shaky relations with China between Washington and Beijing. If she doesn't go, there's a possibility that she could look weak. So it's definitely a tough situation. And once again, we'll have to see how it plays out.
All right, Julia Manchester, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.